Thanks for tuning in to another Chrissy Mayer podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening right now on iTunes, please go and leave a 5-star review. It can be sexy, creepy. It can be, maybe we were friends 15 years ago and you're trying to get in touch with me again. Anything, so long as it's 5 stars, and I'll be reading the best reviews every week on the podcast, no matter what they are. Very excited to talk about my new sponsor, Silk City Hot Sauce. If you order now, if you go into silkcityhotsauce.com and use the promo code CMP, Silk City Hot Sauce is going to throw in a free bottle of cherry sriracha and a bunch of stickers. So please go right now to silkcityhotsauce.com. I mean, I got Mango Magnus. I'm going to pop this open. Dragon. There's so many flavors of the month that they have that you guys can go and purchase. So just go to silkcityhotsauce.com, use the promo code CMP. You're going to get 15% off your order and a free bottle of cherry sriracha. Very excited that these two guys could come together and do this podcast today. This is a timely matter, so I'm very excited to have them both here, taking time out of their day. I will introduce them right now. The first guest is the Chief of Staff for Stand Up New York, Jon Boreamayo.
Hey, everybody. How are you?
Am I pronouncing your last name right?
It's Jon Boreamayo.
Boreamayo.
All right. No worries.
Like the condiment. Perfect. And my other guest is the owner of the Comedy Cellar clubs in New York City and also in Vegas, Noam Dworman.
Hi, Chrissy. Hi, John.
Hi, guys. So, this has been the COVID stuff. It's been really hard on everyone, but particularly hard on venues, particularly comedy venues in New York City. Just last week, Cuomo announced that there were going to be no ticketed events allowed at all and no advertising of any live event at all. This is in addition to Blasio's rule of no indoor dining whatsoever. On top of Cuomo's other rule, no drinks are allowed unless you buy food, which brought on the advent of the famous Cuomo chips that we all know and love now. So I just want to know how these, your two clubs have been sort of dealing with it. Noam, I know you've been in this industry a long, long time. You, I believe, own the building over there, Comedy Cellar. Have you ever experienced anything like this, in all of your time in comedy? And
yeah, it reminds me of the Spanish flu in 1918, Chrissy. It was great. It is similar. No, there's never been anything like this ever. And, just trying to wait it out. Yeah, I mean, the city is, and the state don't think it's safe right now. I can't really second guess them, but what are you gonna do? I don't see why. I don't know if you want me to just like talk about stuff like.
Yeah.
I'm going away from questions. So the rule was up until a little while ago. It was very clear. I could even quote a few if you wanted that, but the state guidelines were that if you had indoor dining, you would be able to have incidental entertainment. So we spent a lot of money, maybe $50,000 or $60,000 to get all the rooms ready, and we figured we were going to have comedy in rooms where we have dining, and we put up plexiglass stages and lights and sound and all kinds of stuff, and that seems all for naught. And I kind of understand why they don't want to allow indoor dining, but if there is indoor dining, and I even understand why they don't want to sell tickets, to tell you the truth, but if there is indoor dining, I really don't see how that becomes more or less safe if there is some entertainment going on, especially music. People stay longer, but especially comedy, that people don't stay that long anyway. So
it's typically a 90-minute show, and then everyone's getting out of there.
Sure. I mean, definitely, I have to agree with Noam. It's in restaurants, at Stand Up New York, we don't have any food here, but we're turning and burning customers every 90 minutes for shows. So I can only imagine, they said it was supposed to be ambient music. Apparently, it was quote me if I'm wrong on this, but correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, something about like just music was able to be played there. And it's great, but like you got a table of 4 that's sitting there and has finished desserts, and they're just, they're just hanging out at that point, inside, and you can't make any money or more money off that table because obviously at that point we'll probably have, certain capacities that we'll have, but, servers are dying too because they're not going to be able to make any more money off of one table, which they were traditionally able to kind of turn over 3 or 4 times during the night.
Yeah, well, you guys have a better argument actually than restaurants do, because if you don't sell any, if you just had a ticketed event, you don't sell any food and drinks, that's safer than eating.
Honestly, it is. I mean, it was very interesting because there's other comedy clubs that this law that came out, I guess, on Tuesday, this ruling, it affected comedy clubs like QED in Queens, where generally they were doing some outdoor shows, and they weren't allowed to do any outdoor shows anymore because comedy was banned. Essentially, you're only allowed to do music. It affected places like that. For us, it's there is a luxury that QED has, that has this backyard space. We're here on the Upper West Side where there's barely any space. People are really living on top of each other. So even if we were to do outdoor seating, we couldn't accommodate probably more than 10, 20 people at most, which would be terrible. At the same time, we also have a very, I guess, our clientele in our neighborhood probably aren't going to want to hear, dick jokes and, profanity laced comedy. So that might be an issue as well. So we decided to take it to the parks, and it's been doing well for us.
Now, Jon, recently weren't a couple of the park shows canceled?
Yeah, they were shut down. So we've been doing shows, in public parks. Currently now about seven locations, but we've been doing this one down in Battery at Wagner Park, which was great. It's a beautiful skyline of Liberty State Park, the Liberty Statue of Liberty. Jesus, can't talk today. As well as Jersey City. But it was nice and on the water, but it's also privately owned. And apparently there were some people that I guess were just complaining. A couple of Karens that were out there, and pretty much private security shut it down. The thing about it is that even if and even the local security said this, like if cops came to be like, they're not doing anything wrong. I mean, everybody's 6-foot distancing. They're not causing a scene. We're not using an outdoor microphone or anything like that. But yeah, they have been shut down. But we also want to respect the local officials. We want to respect the people that live in that area as well. So we opted to not fight it as hard and just decided to walk away from it. We have been back since, and we haven't had any pushback. But I'm sure there will be a time that we'll have to shut down a show again.
Isn't Chrissy a Karen?
No. I mean, I could always use my powers for evil, but
mom must be.
I wasn't booked on the show, so I'm shutting it the fuck down.
Oh my God.
Listen, I mean, there is some reason for optimism. I'll tell you that. Cuomo gets everything backwards. It's true. The poor guy. I mean, he was telling us to stay open when it was really dangerous, and then he wouldn't let them keep it out of
points. They're so great.
He kept it out of the nursing home. I mean, he wouldn't keep he didn't allow nursing homes to keep COVID patients out, and he wouldn't close the schools. He got everything backwards. And now, and I follow pretty closely, there's a few articles already that say New York has a very low level of herd immunity. It's very unlikely to spike again. Other places that have similar stats to New York, for instance, London, have opened their bars and are doing okay. Sweden, while the rest of Europe is spiking, Sweden is down to 0. These are all places that have had similar stats to New York. So I would wonder if they're not waiting for the weather to turn, letting it ride a little bit longer, and then they're going to have to begin to experiment with allowing indoor dining. But the question is, at that point, will they allow entertainment? I think they might change their mind because it doesn't make sense. I'm hoping. But, I mean, we're fucked. If I told you how much money I was losing, you wouldn't be able to feel sorry for me.
Oh.
Never do anyway.
The numbers are so big, you'd hate me. I mean, it's stunning. The amount of the mortgages and the rents and everything that still needs to get paid. It's just, hey, I'm walking around my house like Jack Nicholson in The Shining before his family knows that he's about to lose it.
Kill everyone. I'm just, it bothers me because I've seen, there have been strip clubs that have been able to open and do socially distant lap dances. Like there have been some music venues that have been able to, I'm wondering if part of this comedy crackdown, an element of it is because of the free speech, because it's more likely that there will be comedians who are going to be voices of dissent against these rules and regulations. It was kind of circling in the comedy community that because this article came out on Wall Street Journal, there was a piece that came out, it's called New York City Comedy Clubs Move Laughs Outdoors. And the rumor is that Wall Street Journal piece is what motivated the SLA to start the crackdown.
First of all, I am so sorry about that piece. I have to half agree with it. The city has been notorious for shutting down the voices of the people. A perfect example were the protests that were happening in the May and June months, and the crackdown that was happening there. I wanna have a better outlook. I want to have some cautious optimism that that's not the case. I may have a counterpoint, and just to play devil's advocate on, maybe it's because they don't want to allow, because it's public areas, that they don't want any lewdness. Again, nobody wants to hear, somebody doesn't want to hear a dick joke when they're, hanging out with their 4-year-old. So I could see that happening, but what is the difference from comedy versus somebody that's doing, Showtime on the train? Do you know what I mean? This guy's doing. I'm not comparing backflips to the F word by any means, but I think we need to the government needs to realize, and the local politicians realize, what, comedy. This is the home for stand-up comedy, New York City. You know what I mean? I will even say this. No, I consider your guys' place as the mecca of everything. I feel so. There's a reverence that I have when I walk down that street. I like and into your building. Like I want to take my hat off. We love this business, and so many other people that are in the public eye. They have an affinity for our scene, and hopefully we can find some turnaround. I'm waiting for somebody that's kind of up there to be like, hey. Like, let's bring comedy outside. And I think, people like Birbiglia, they're doing some great stuff up in Connecticut. I know that the West Coast is doing some awesome, outdoor shows. Gaskin's doing his drive-in stuff. So there's a big call for it. And you know what? The proof is in the pudding. My crowds are pretty good. I mean, they're socially distanced. And, we're averaging maybe 40 to 50 right now on a weekday, which are some numbers that I didn't even receive when we had the club open. But yeah, Sheep Meadow at one point, we had 120, I counted, just all socially distanced throughout the park, listening to comedy. And, people need it.
Yeah, I would just say, Chrissy, I don't think it's any kind of anti-free speech thing. I think you'd be shocked to know how little thought goes into some of these government decisions that are made. I mean, if I told you how many things in my career I got by just on the assumption that the people who were working for the city and the state just didn't check actually any paperwork you submitted, so I don't think they're trying to silence free speech. They have so much stuff going on. I mean, I think that there is a fundamentally correct fear that entertainment is going to pile a lot of people on top of each other and drinking and stay for a long time. And it's not as essential as in their minds as eating at a restaurant. So they're saying, listen, we're going to allow you to eat in restaurants because you got to get out of your house and you got to eat, but we're not ready to allow, party time but I would not get paranoid about it.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I don't know.
Do you guys feel, I mean, there's so many things. Have you been offered or taken advantage of any kind of small business loan or has the city been able to provide any kind of support?
Yeah, yeah, we got pretty sizable federal loans, but we can't use them, and they're supposed to be forgivable with certain conditions of bringing all the employees back and opening all the stuff, which obviously we can't fulfill those. So, I mean, the money's sitting in the bank, and I mean, it is some peace of mind to know it's even if I end up having to go into significant debt, at least hopefully I'll be able to pay it back when we open again. So there is, yeah. I don't know what stand up New York's done. Altitude is so rich. I don't think you guys need loans, do you? Sell some of your Bitcoin.
I will say that we I think we have taken advantage of some of what the federal loans and grants were, but also I mean the kindness of people out there. I mean, these GoFundMe pages have been fantastic. We were able to raise some decent money for our staff through that, and it was awesome. There was a couple of comics that gave very generously, and it was nice to kind of Venmo some of our servers some money in this time. And granted, they got their extra 600, but it's peace of mind. I agree, Noam. Some of that money is probably sitting, at least the loans are sitting in the bank, and we can't do anything with it yet. And I think our major focus now is because we've also had some leniency from like our landlords and things like that, that we're able to kind of focus on our community and focus on our industry, and give people a forum give comics a forum rather to tell their jokes, to let all the COVID stuff out, to give their Tiger King jokes out there and give them a whirl. That's what we're focusing on right now. But money is I would love to be raking in the cash. Don't get me wrong. But I have to admit, this is also a good marketing for us. Come the vaccine coming November 1st, which I'm assuming coming that people are going to remember our name. Which would be awesome.
By the way, we mentioned Birbiglia. He was responsible for a GoFundMe for the Comedy Cellar wait staff.
Yeah.
And he raised $112,000.
Holy wow!
For my staff, yeah. So, but I'm sure they've been through that money by now, and now they're cutting back on the stimulus money, or whatever you call that extra $600, which I think that's crazy. You can't tell people they can't work and cut.
I think New York just opted in, so I think it's $400. So it's $300 that's kicked in from the federal government, $100 from the state right now, which I don't know when that takes effect. But and I hate to get political, but it's sickening that people are there are literally people in our city right now that have to go to food lines, but we want to fix the post office right now, and I get it. I get there's a bigger picture on it, but it's just where was that? Where was that emergency call to Congress to make sure that people had money at the end of July? And I think priorities need to be straightened, to be honest with you. They've shut down park shows, but literally Aaron Berg is telling me that there's a guy that's like 15 feet down shooting heroin on a park bench. Where is it supposed to be? Like, who's policing? Like, why police that?
What's to stop a crackhead from yelling out my very same dick joke? You know what I mean?
Exactly, which I've
Great
heard.
Minds think alike. Yeah. Yeah. What roadblocks are in place that are keeping you from using the federal money?
So I've tuned out of all this, but at the time I was trying to worry about it. The rules were that by a certain date, and they extended the date, I think now it's through November, you had to spend all the money, and you had to spend it 75% on payroll, bringing everybody who worked for you back, bringing your entire staff back. And to the extent that you couldn't meet these certain requirements, then they would prorate the amount of money that would be forgiven. And it was all sorts of hoops to jump through. But in the end, we're not open, or we're open in the olive tree, during the day with one person. So, and if we don't, now this may change, everything is fluid, but if we don't spend, let's say it's $100,000 we borrow. If we don't spend $75,000 on payroll, then we cannot use the other $25,000 to help us pay our rent. We can use it, but we'll have to pay it back. The original idea was to allow us to forgivable loans. So we would take everybody back, and then we would keep everybody working. It's called Paycheck Protection Program, which is like protect the paycheck. We would keep everybody working, and that if we did that, then we would be able to take the other 25, or I think they changed it to 30%, to use for our day-to-day expenses like rent and utilities and stuff like that. But as it is now, I'm just paying rent every month, and I haven't been able to employ anybody, so all that money is going to come out of my hide one way or another.
Yeah, the PPP loans definitely they're very tricky how you read them. Obviously, our staff is fairly small, but I mean, the amount that we were able to give to our staff, it's running out. I will say I've been kind of bashing government right now, but I will say some of the best things that I've seen that have helped, and maybe some of your listeners, if they haven't heard about it, were the SBA loans. If you are a private contractor or you have an EIN, you can apply for these loans, and essentially it's 13 months, no interest, and then the interest rates are no more than, I think it was 4%, it's 5%, and you have 30 years to pay off the loan. And we're talking about like injections, and these aren't gigantic mortgage injections like 150 to $1 million. These are like 50,000. I know one person that applied for it and just got 10 grand, and how helpful it was for them. The SBA loan, I think, is one of those things that is out there that I don't think many people know about. I know there's something on the floor of the Senate, which is for the small business loans for specifically minority owners, minority business owners. So if that goes through, I will be partial owner of Stand Up New York.
Look at you.
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept. But yeah, it stays there, and we can't even use it. But what can we do? I mean, at least I don't have anything I could do. I mean, we're 2,500 square feet. That's really what we are. So, I mean, we have a lot of beer that we're drinking. That's about it.
Noam, are you guys over there drinking the extra beers at the Comedy Cellar?
No, I don't know. No, I don't think I've had a drink of alcohol since this shutdown started.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's definitely frustrating. I mean, there was a rally held at the Governor's Comedy Club out on Long Island. There's just been a lot of talk among comics and bookers that these, okay, so it's decided that maybe this isn't specifically targeting comics and free speech, but there's just been a lot of feelings, among comics and bookers that it's all so overblown, and people can shop in crowded shopping markets, and people can go to Target that's super crowded. What's wrong with everybody having a mask? Noam, you bought all this plexiglass and stuff for the stage that you can't. It's got to be really frustrating, and it's got to start to feel like, hey, this is like really kind of unnecessary and overblown, and you have the tools to make it work, and I mean, that's got to feel frustrating.
Oh yeah, I'm frustrated. I know you want me to elaborate. Like, yeah, I'm fucking frustrated. But what you may be detecting in my voice is a extreme compartmentalization of all this, and I'm really just trying not to think about it. I have 3 beautiful children and a wife who now has an excuse to socially distance from me. And so. No, I mean, and I'm just trying to wait it out. I mean, I don't think it's going to end in closing down of the Comedy Cellar unless business doesn't come back. I don't think Comedy Cellar Vegas will open again. I think there's a good chance that's never going to open again. That's a huge loss of money. Wow. That's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars down the drain. That pisses me off. But but the important thing to me is that the Comedy Cellar in New York be protected, and I think it will come back.
What is
despite what Al Tutcher, the prophet of doom, the prince of darkness, says about the future of New York?
Yes, I read that article too.
Yes. Donnie actually just made a comment. I just put it out on Instagram that He doesn't agree with James. I really don't have any comment. I personally, not, I do. I think James is wrong, and I've had this text conversation with him, and I said to him, I appreciate it, but like, I really hope this is a moment where he's taught us a lot, taught me a lot, taught Donnie a lot, taught Gabe a lot. Maybe this is the point that we get to teach the teacher, and that he's wrong on it. I end our shows with saying that comedy is still alive here in New York City, and I truly believe it. I truly believe that it is. I truly believe that New York City is still going to make it.
Well, let me say something. Listen, James is so fucking smart. Nobody, you're reluctant to say you're totally missing this, James, because he is so smart and he has such a good track record. But the truth is that people do overshoot in times of stress. I mean, Paul Krugman, who was a Nobel Prize economist, famously predicted that when Trump won the presidency, the markets would never recover. They'll never recover. So, we're all humans first, and we can get carried away with the glum emotional moment. And I think that's part of what's going on with James, because I mean, there's New York, London, Paris, Munich. There's I don't know what other cities fit in that category. It's very difficult to imagine one of those cities just dropping out. Like London is, after all these years, New York after all these years, it's just, now it could happen.
Right.
But I don't think New York was never as fragile as a one industry town Detroit was, let's say. New York has so many other things. Now, having said that, and I get a whiff of your politics there, John. If AOC hadn't chased Amazon foolishly out of New York City,
yep,
maybe we would be somewhat less precarious situation than we are now. But she stupidly decided that New York need have no part of any of the industries of tomorrow. We're fine just the way we are. Let the future happen somewhere else. We don't need it in New York, dummy. But anyway, I think New York will still be okay.
I definitely agree with you. Obviously there is some hindsight 2020 with the AOC.
No, I said no hindsight. Anybody should have known.
AOC sucks.
Anybody should have known that you don't chase out the opportunity to be a major hub for the next major industry. It's like in 1905 or whatever. She said, no, we don't need this stock exchange thing here. We're fine with the whatever the status quo. Let that happen somewhere else. New York will be fine without it. It's stupid.
I mean, I live in Jersey, so I was banking on Newark to get that contract, to be honest with you. I will say though that just based off of it's just funny to read the feed that comes through, because you sniffed okay. I actually don't. I'm not an AOC supporter, funny enough. But I
like her actually. I'm being hyperbolic, but on that one, she really. I mean, I find her extremely charming, and I think the media is unfair to her more than once, actually.
Definitely
with
that.
Yeah.
I agree, but there's I've been reading in my feed. There was one thing that was written that says, "Get out, millionaires in New York City." Something along the lines that without you, the arts will flourish. That's bullshit. Look at fucking Detroit right now. I mean, well, not right now, but 10 years ago. Natterman had a great response to that, and I just think, yes, it is a tough time, but we shoot at the top so much, and we shoot at these people that put their opinion out there or have money, and it's like we're all in this together. It's affecting everyone, no matter what you think. Maybe more worse than others, but I will say that it's challenging because I see it in our own community, and I think there's a time that comics and comedy club owners. This is great that I'm having a conversation. Noam, you always have James on your show as well. That we're coming together and kind of to raise ourselves up as best we can. I know that we're having a call with a senator actually very soon to speak about the changes in the next couple of that have that have come down on Tuesday, and seeing how we could get that word comedy omitted from it. So yeah, I really wish that, you know, with the glumness, that people don't have this fight mentality and more of a, you know, just a bonding. And it's trust me, it's cool to see. And Noam, you know, I watch this all the time, and watching, being at the Olive and watching the comics kind of just hang out at the table. There's something cool about going to one of our outdoor shows and seeing the comics kind of huddle around a tree and just kind of hang out and talk and bullshit with each other and have a White Claw, you know, or have a bottle of water. And it's a cool feeling to see that all over again.
Yeah.
I miss the Mediterranean platters most of all.
Yeah, and I didn't realize you guys were doing so many shows outside. I don't know if I'm scared to go out, but I should go.
I get it. I mean, listen. I mean, I was craving your wings the other day, so I swung by, and it's weird because like you can't have comedy, but Cafe Wall right next to you is blasting music, and it looked like. It honestly looks like New Orleans down there for a little bit. Like, why can't we have? I mean, even if I go to, I was having dinner at Puglia over in Little Italy, and what they were doing was when one guy was singing, the other restaurant would stop their singing, and then they would kind of switch off. So, what's stopping like Cafe Wall doing for a 30-minute, you know, set of music, and then having a 30-minute set right next door? I mean,
well, I mean, from what. Listen, I support the law, but I imagine that after this new rule came down, they're not supposed to be doing that either. I mean, the rules for not just for comedy, it's for music also.
Was it happening on Saturday?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's, and you know, who knows if they're even going to enforce this stuff. I mean, you know.
Right. At what point do the clubs say enough and just stand up and open? Like, what would it take for both of you to get to that point?
I don't think I would do that.
I'm not an owner. I'm an operator. You know, I'm paid to do this. But I would recommend that we not do that. I don't want to find ourselves, you know, on, you know, Fox Business News or Fox or, you know, CNN, you know, being that gym owner in Jersey saying that we need to open. We just have to find other ways to do it. And, you know, however we can. You know, our expansion is going, I mean, some people are nervous to come in New York City. So we're expanding, and we're going to bring it into Jersey as well for that. I am toying with the idea that, God forbid that this is going on. I mean, because I heard that outdoor dining ends Halloween. Okay. So once that happens, like, and we're not even able to use parks, like, we're going to have find some sort of, you know, revenue stream. So I'm inclined to kind of go to LA and start doing outdoor shows over there and kind of pop-ups, because I need to go where there's people, and I also need to go where there's comics as well. But there's no way, I mean, unless it became some ruling martial law, that's the only time. But as of right now, I would not advise Donnie, Gabe, or James to be like, fuck it, let's open, screw it, everyone says. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, we did an indoor mic, and the heat that I got from everyone was like, oh, and we stopped that immediately. We did 2, and we're like, all right, we're gonna fuck off a little bit.
Yeah. Just gotta sit tight and wait. It'll end. It'll end.
This is too shall pass, right? I saw that that's in Beyond. So.
Okay, yeah. So the risks are too high to just say fuck it and open, and you know, yeah. Of course, nobody wants to lose their liquor license or.
Sure. I mean, they're notorious. SLA's been taking liquor license. They took a liquor license away for a bunch of restaurants up and down Amsterdam. You know, I've been hearing all about it. Like, we were bringing White Claws to the park for consumption for the comics, which technically you're not allowed to do, but we actually stopped that because, you know, we have signage up there and we don't want to be associated with that. I mean, besides a ticket sale, that $18 beverage with them goes a long way for us.
Yeah. That's interesting because actually, no, my sister lives in Vegas, and she's, you know, I talk to her almost every day, and she's like, oh, things are like pretty normal, and so it's sad to hear, you know, your thoughts on the you know, the Comedy Cellar out in Vegas. I mean, was it the closing of the casinos that really like seemed to fuck you guys there, or just the current, rules?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, the Rio is still closed, and doesn't look like they're getting ready to open. I expect. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't open.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And
then getting it off the ground again is really. Why are you depressing me?
Sorry, no. How have have you guys been hearing from a lot of your regular comics? Have your comics been reaching out to you, to talk about things, or how's the morale?
I mean, I hear from a couple comics a day. I've been remiss in my darkness of really, I think, staying in touch as I should. I might have built up some resentment from people that way, but I think morale is bad. I would say morale is bad. I mean, not everybody's in the same situation. The A-list comics, or the people who have a lot of money, they're hanging in, and then but there's some people who are really struggling. The people used to. I say that, like, the mid-level comics who were selling out on the road, who expanded their expenses so that they had a house and a family and a car and this and that, but they needed weekly work to keep that up. And maybe they had some savings, but they never counted on not working for 6 months. Those guys are really fucking getting it in the ass, and they don't have any good bailouts available to them. So those guys are freaking out. I'm surprised we haven't, God forbid, heard of, suicides. I mean, it's some people are under tremendous stress. So, and so I try to think of them when I want to cheer myself up. I'm kidding.
Just stay away from the bridges.
No, I'm kidding. That's just gallows humor. I take it very serious.
I mean, comic morale, I mean, when I see them, they're happy to be there. I mean, I want to I harken back to the beginning of this, though. There were some comics that, I mean, I missed it a lot. I honestly, I spend a lot of time here, Chrissy, as you know. I mean, I see you guys more than I see my actual friends and family. So there is a great, there's a kind of a sigh when I was able to see people. Jeffrey Curry, who's been a good friend of mine for the last 3 years, I was able to see him finally on Friday, and he was in Chicago the whole time, and it was like this moment of like happiness. But I can definitely, you're definitely right, Noam. There are those comics that are that it's tough. It's really tough for them. We had an NY One Piece, New York One Piece that was done for us, but Derek Gaines was interviewed, and Derek said it best. He's like, how do you like doing comedy outside? And he goes, it's terrible. It's terrible. There's no microphone, but we have to do what we have to do and adapt, and I think adapting is something that I've been seeing some great things out of comics. Park Normand has been doing cool stuff, I think, on YouTube. His special drop, Joe List special drop during quarantine. Some really good things in that. Also, the people have just been with their TikTok games or their game on Twitter has really been bumped up. There are comics that, and I'll shout them out. I saw Alex Babbitt today in McCarran Park, and I was completely blown away. It is not the same comic that I saw 6 months ago.
Wow.
People, Dave Temple is another one. Hey, buddy.
That's my son. That's my son, Manny.
Hey, Manny.
Hi, Manny. Oh, what a cutie.
Say hi.
Did you learn to do a dab? Is that what that was?
Yeah, do a dab. Yeah.
He dabbed.
It's getting close to time where he expects me to read.
Got it.
Oh.
But yeah, it's
Hey, butterfly.
So like, there's also comics like that have pumped into the limelight. Like, there's a one TikTok. Her name is Sarah Cooper, who's getting a Netflix deal.
Oh God, yeah.
Adapting, you need to do. I mean, there is going to be a new way to do this. I mean, I'll be honest. If we find a cure tomorrow, I'll be honest. I still want to do park shows next summer. Yeah. I just think there's a need for it. But we need to, grow, and we have that flexibility that we're able to do it. We're just a brick and mortar, but we're also a name. And, I have I wish we had the capacity that, you guys have downtown now, but like there's a little bit of me that gives me a little bit more freedom that I'm able to kind of experiment and do a show in Queens that I've never done before. But, I can only imagine the stress that some comics and, some of your employees are going through right now that are just like, where's that Saturday night that I'm going to be able to, pay my car payments?
Well, yeah, some of my employees have children. It's, not good. Especially my security guys have families and kids, and they've been working with me for a long time. I'm talking 20 years. It's very painful.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's been affecting everybody, like even at the top level too, because, I was hearing just a couple days ago, and maybe you could comment on this, Noam. Leslie Jones was, just 2 days ago talking about like kind of bragging about how she was, I know she's had beef with Kevin Brennan for a while, but she was bragging about how she was able to get him banned from the Cellar. So I wonder if it's just the stress kind of bringing up stuff.
I didn't hear that. By the way, I should say I have one employee, who worked there for 40 years. It works in the kitchen. So I should call him. I haven't checked in on him. I've been really bad about checking in. I have to tell you, I get calls, but I really need to break out of this funk. So it's Leslie Jones. I didn't hear that she brought up that thing with Kevin Brennan again. As I recall that incident, I basically, both of them at the end were disappointed with me. Neither of them felt I handled it well. There was one incident with Kevin and I didn't ban him, and I kind of asked him not to do that anymore. And then there was another podcast where he was quiet while someone else, it wasn't he who said it, it was someone else on the podcast said something that was just unacceptable, like clearly unacceptable. And he let it go, and it wasn't live. He could have edited it out. Okay. And we suspended him for 2 weeks or something like that. But then it didn't get me any win with Leslie either, because she was still mad at me also. So, you try your best. I like them both. And I'm sorry that I let them both down. Kevin, Kevin deserved it. Come on now. Kevin deserved it because he can't, he's a friend of the club. I've known him for a long, long time. But the Comedy Cellar is a family there. And it's just not realistic to say certain outrageous things about somebody that's part of the family and then stroll into work like nothing happened. It's untenable for the vibe of the place to have that level of acrimony. So my attitude with something like that is like, you can say what you want. And listen, we all enjoy outrageous humor, but then maybe you can't work at the club, I'm not trying to, I don't know. It puts me in almost a totally unwinnable situation, So he deserved it, I thought.
What was it exactly that he said that was just the last straw for you?
It wasn't something he said. It was something that someone else said on his podcast.
Okay.
I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was some sort of racially tinged joke. And I have a pretty I'm not, we all in this business, we're used to hearing racial jokes, but it was over the line, I thought,
Yeah. And it does put you in a really hard position, because it's like, yes, we all know Brennan is somebody his whole brand is talking shit and, creating and maintaining drama. And it's like, but then, it's like you just said, like you have to cultivate and keep this family atmosphere. And it sucks to be put in a position where you feel you have to choose one comic over the other, when really you're just trying to keep the peace and keep things moving.
I've taken Kevin's back on other matters where I thought the comedians, there's been a few, like the comedians that were pissed at him were, we needed to have a little bit of a thicker skin. I thought it was more still within the universe of just the bashing that goes on in stand-up comedy. But this remark, and I'm not dodging it. I really don't remember what it was, but I remember that remark on the podcast. I'm like, no, this can't. if I let this continue, it's going to get even worse. I needed to put a firm limit on that. It was not okay.
Yeah.
And to be safe for the 10th time, Kevin didn't say it, but he didn't object. That was what it was, you know. And I know it's hard to sometimes to object when somebody says something they shouldn't say, but you have to, or you have to cut it out.
Yeah, and you feel like he had sort of a sufficient warning there, so.
I've cut stuff out of my podcast that somebody said when I thought it was over the line.
What Altucher say? What did he say?
Oh yeah, a lot.
Did he drop the F word?
No, James didn't say anything.
I just like.
What did Leslie say?
I think she was doing like a IG live or something, a live, and somebody had asked her about Kevin Brennan, and she still seemed really angry about it, and she was like, fuck that guy, and anybody defending him, you know, Kevin needs help, like mental help, and anybody defending him, you also need mental help. And
yeah, she was mad, and I didn't blame her. She was mad. She was mad because there's something else that she went through, which is that Kevin's followers attacked her on Twitter in the most disgusting, hurtful way, and that left that would have left a scar on anybody. And I don't know enough about Twitter to know, you know, what he should have done to prevent that. But
yeah, it's hard to. I mean, he does have a lot of fans, and like I know from experience, like without even telling anybody to do anything, you know, the fans feel like they're sticking up for the comic they love by, you know.
But he could have made it clear that he didn't want any part of that. You know, we see this in politics too. So, sometimes you just have to step up and say, listen, this is all in fun and I bash and whatever, but this is too far, and cut it out. You know, because it was really ugly what they stopped it. It was really ugly what they did on Twitter to her. Really ugly.
It's inspiring to actually hear you kind of say that, Noam. It's awesome, actually. You know, like I said, I have a reverence for the Comedy Cellar, and hearing you guys and you personally say something like that is awesome. You know, I am not at the same level as you guys. I'm still kind of an unlikely gatekeeper, but hearing that, you know, even the big guys are just like, hey, like you need to not do that. It's cool to hear that. But you know, I mean, I'm not banning anybody anytime soon right now. I don't have to, but it's awesome that you guys are standing up for stuff like that.
Well, that's nice of you to say. I mean, Leslie didn't think that I stood up for her sufficiently. I mean, I did try.
It is hard because even if you do put out a statement or you say you don't condone it, it's so hard to control 15,000 Twitter followers. It's
well, to be honest, the first time when I did not suspend him, the reason was that I was sure that if I did, he would go on Twitter and say so, and then his followers would have gone really nuts, you know. So I was hoping to avoid that and just getting him to stop and let the thing just dissipate. But then when it came back around again, I realized I had to try a different way of handling it.
So you feel like it was made pretty clear to Kevin when he got banned the first time for 2 weeks that was why he was banned.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin knew. I don't know how Kevin feels about it. He was pissed, you know, but I think he knew. He knew it was over the line. I think. I don't know. I mean, it was, like I said before, if Leslie were, if it were me and Kevin said something and I decided to say, let him say what I don't give a shit what he says, you know, then that would be my prerogative. But she didn't, she was under no reason that she had to have that reaction. And once he knew that what her reaction was, that she wasn't just letting it roll off her, then he knew he was putting the harmony of the place in an awkward place, because we all sit there, we all go to the table, we all sit at the same table, you know, and he was upsetting the apple cart, and I needed to put my foot down. I said, well, I can't. You know, the apple cart, as it were, is really the secret of the success of the club. I can't. I need to protect that.
Are there any other like crazy, like, suspension or banning stories, or like anything worse than that you've had to?
Yeah, but they're all about Kevin. No,
put down for like the greater good of everyone.
Very, very few suspensions like that. And the thing about Kevin is that he's so fucking gifted as a comic. I mean, this guy is just a natural if there ever was one, you know? So when somebody is that talented, you something inside you wants to forgive them, even though that's not really rational, you know? Like if he weren't funny, like fuck Kevin Brennan, you know? But because he's so talented, you're like, oh, Kevin, you know, I just wish you could do better, you know? Like I forgive him, but you know, I'm not saying that's right, and I don't question Leslie's reaction at all. Yeah.
Do you think that if you were to unban Kevin, that he's
not banned now?
Same mistakes?
No, he's not banned now. It was a 2-week suspension.
Oh! I thought there was a longer ban because of that.
No, he was back at the club at the time we closed down, but and he stopped going after her, as far as I know.
Okay.
I don't believe in permanent punishments, except for my son.
Oh.
I'm kidding. No, I don't. I mean, I don't believe in life sentences are not.
That's good. John, what about you?
I don't have anybody that we've banned here. I took on the booking reins maybe about a year and a half ago, and there was nobody really that was told to me by ownership that no, they're not allowed here anymore. I do know that there are comics that just can't work with each other, so I have to play that very carefully because it's very tight quarters over here. That's what I've been conditioned to do. But I have to agree with Noam on that. I think a lifetime ban on something is a little tough. Again, unlikely gatekeeper here. This world was spinning a long time before me, and I'm a big firm believer of playing within the rules and the unwritten rules here in this industry. But it is interesting to hear that that there are some comics that don't want to work with certain people, so you have to put them on different shows. And I'll get those side messages like I had no idea about that. But I like the whole mentality because, again, I do at max here 4 shows a night, and it's a completely revolving door. I mean, I wouldn't say that there are some comics that are able to end their night here. You know what I mean? Consistence, like Dante Nero is able to, we have a lot of new closers that I like to call that are able to kind of be here. But like, I love that bond and you talk about this apple cart, Noam. It's this long L here for me, and just watching these comics kind of, bust balls with each other and eat, shitty Chinese food or chirping chicken. I mean, it's a great experience to watch. And one person can, fuck up the whole bunch. And I thankfully I haven't had that yet. Obviously the Louis thing has been always brought up into mind. And I've said this on several interviews. If Louis walked in, I don't think I would give him a spot. I probably would get chastised by ownership for it. I would rather do something along the lines of because I don't want to put anybody in there that doesn't know he's coming up there. I know if ownership was there, they would probably want me to let him up there. And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't fault any comic with not wanting to be on the show anymore, or any guest that wanted to leave and not pay their bill.
Are you kidding me? Enough with this Louis stuff already. Bill Clinton just spoke at the convention a week ago.
Literally a pedophile.
It wasn't even the keynote. But I'm just saying.
Whatever. There was column after column in the New York Times. I believe Juanita, Michelle Goldberg, and Caitlin Flanagan, and Kristen Gillibrand, and all the best feminists correctly were like, we've reevaluated book. And then the Democrats treat it like
I mean,
like
he's still a kingmaker, to be honest with you.
whatever. He's accused of rape.
But
Rape.
the second point I was going to make was that if Louis ever wanted to do an actual spot here, and I could advertise it and put it on the bill, so people would be, then I would have no problem with doing it.
Listen,
No problem at all.
this is my advice to everybody in the world. Stop being so fucking. You're not a court of law. You're not the Lord, and you're gonna make yourself a hypocrite in no time. In no time, if you are really gonna think that that you're gonna treat everybody the same. If you had a bartender who you found out did the same thing as Louis.
I remember this quote.
You wouldn't, but I'm saying, or even, I'm sure you have people in your family who have done stuff that would warrant this.
I've done horrible shit.
We all have. Like, we're just showing off here to the world. I wouldn't put Louis in. Come on now. Louis did what he did. He apologized. He wrote a letter. He was stupid enough to confess when other people we know have just denied.
And then done way worse.
Well,
Yeah.
So he admitted it. You know, and he didn't admit to doing it without consent. He just admitted, he said, I thought it was okay because I asked. And it's done. It's done already. I mean, what are we doing?
I mean, I have nothing here right now, so I can't even say. I mean, this is a complete hypothetical on my end. But I'm also accused of, I mean, I put other people up on stage as well. We've had Miley Yiannopoulos here. We've had people like Roseanne Barr. I have had YouTube.
What about TJ
Miller?
I mean, Jeremy Piven. I've had.
Okay, so listen. I'm not saying any of them should be banned. I'm not saying any of them did what they're accused of, but the accusations are worse than Louis.
Yeah, but at the very least, I have not given them drop-ins.
Do you guys feel like
why?
Because they haven't asked for it.
Oh, okay.
Oh. What are your guys' feelings on Chris D'Elia and Brian Callen and the reaction to the allegations against them? And I don't know. To me, I think it's a big effort to take down Joe Rogan. They can't get him, so they're going to take out his friends, like anyone who has influence in his sphere.
I'm not that familiar with the accusations and the evidence for them.
Oh,
it has to do with underage
with
girls.
D'Elia, yeah, he's hitting on underage girls, but then he came back with his proof that he actually never had sex with anybody underage, and in a couple instances actually like really waited until they turned 18, but no underage sexual activity. And I just feel like everybody jumped to throw them both under the bus because it just it doesn't look good to be friends with somebody accused.
Listen, I mean, I would, there is a recent, if there's a creep factor and the audience may get turned off, and that's certainly a valid reason not to put somebody on. The thing is that the club owner gets judged personally on this, and I failed that test. And I'll tell you that, I mean, I know people who go to work every day who have, slapped their kids around. And, if I was creating the moral scale, I think I would count that worse than what Louis is accused of,
Yeah, I would too.
It's not right. So I'm saying but it's not the offense of the day, so it doesn't get that treatment. So I just think this is a bottomless pit to separate one correctly. It's immoral, one category of immoral behavior, and pretend that this is the only one that warrants special moral enforcement by the club owner, when all the other things that we know people do, which are equally bad or if not worse, because you're not going to get in trouble for it, you don't do anything about it. And I just prefer not to get myself in the situation where I have to start in the mirror creating all kinds of bullshit rationales why I did this. So my decision back with the Louis thing was I'm just going to try to tough it out. Yeah. And that was not an endorsement of anything he did. It's just because once I did that would be it. What about this guy? What about that guy? Why didn't you do this? I said, I'm just going to, it's up to the audience. We told the audience, he comes, you get your money back if you don't want to stay and see him. And Very few people didn't want to stay and see him. Some people did, and that was it.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. I mean, I believe, yeah, the guy deserves to perform again, you know?
He has been. He's been doing extremely well.
Yeah.
He's not accused of a crime.
Yeah. Just like being a little creepy, which, you know,
it's not okay. It's not okay.
Like that.
But it's not okay, but it doesn't mean you can't work. And it's up to the audience. And you know, he wrote that back on Lloyd. He wrote that apology letter. I mean, if he had run it by me before he published it, I would have wanted to change certain things. But in other ways, that was a very, very honest apology letter. And I realize now that when you ask somebody something like that, it's not a question, it's a predicament. I thought that was extremely insightful and honest. It's 100 times more than anyone else has done.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that most people denying it are lying anyway. And, you know, normally in most moral universes, confession and contrition are the people who are first on the list to be forgiven. But we don't believe in forgiveness anymore.
Right.
I mean, this is, I'm gonna blame John and his left-wing people. Well, it's true. They've taken forgiveness out of the lexicon. There's no path to forgiveness. If you confess to something, they double down on you.
Sure. Cancel culture has definitely been a huge thing that we've been going through in the last couple. It was amazing to watch comics and people get canceled during quarantine as well.
You're actually trying to be nice.
No, there was.
Sorry, John. My son says that's mean because they're actually trying to be nice. Now you have to be quiet while John talks. Go ahead.
Put him on. Let's get him a Zoom.
What are his thoughts? But yeah, it was interesting to see that. And just to go back to your point, Chrissy, as far as Chris D'Elia and all and that, you know, I have there's some comics, you know, that work with him, and we actually we put something up that wasn't the best in the world, but it was an Instagram post, and we immediately got heat over it.
What did you put up?
So essentially, it was like tag your favorite sexual predator. And it was, you know, it was tongue in cheek.
What if your favorite sexual predator isn't on Instagram?
I don't know, but you know, we were just kind of playing and toying with it. But I remember the recoil of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that either, by the way. I would have, because
I actually did not. I did not co-sign on that, but I opened up my phone and saw it, and so it was out there.
Because I think it's important to also. To not look like you don't treat the issue with respect. And now, let me finish. I know that joking about it doesn't mean that you don't treat the issue with respect, but the outside world doesn't often get that. So there's certain things, just like, you know, to joke about it, just, you know, yeah, I wouldn't joke about it, but I'm not faulting you. It's just bad. If I was your PR company, I'd say don't do that.
As far as, you know, levity, sometimes we're hit or miss with it. You know, we should really leave the jokes for the comedians and just post, you know, funny memes and shit like that.
Basically, the smartest thing I ever did in my life, and I'm pretty outspoken, right, is I never tweeted. I always knew not to tweet. I don't know how I knew. Well, I don't know what little bird. I always knew this is not a good idea. And believe me, I want to.
Start now, no? Why not?
You could always start now. It's good to hear both of you have, you know, maintain the idea of like, okay, no permanent bannings, you know, people are entitled to perform again, all that, letting the market decide, does the room fill or does it not? And I actually had a situation where, I'll say it, it was Rebecca Trent at the Creek, and she banned me because I seriously dated. I dated this guy for like 2.5 years, but I dated a guy that she used to date. And when she found out, she was so angry and banned me. And this was back in 2012. And I'm still like technically banned from the Creek. Like, luckily I moved on and performed at real comedy clubs and no longer needed it. But it still blows my mind, like how.
I would have to say I'm taking Rebecca's side on that one.
Oh, really?
Because if some comedian went out with my wife, I think they'd be banned for life.
See, I did not know that they were dating until I didn't know that they had dated till I was already seeing this guy.
No, listen. Rebecca's a friend of mine, and I don't know the story, but the difference there is that that's a personal, emotional reaction that makes it unpleasant for her to go to work if someone that causes that pain is there. So she's not. So you're not banned because of some misbehavior, essentially. I think you're banned because it's her fiefdom there, and I consider my place and if someone makes me uncomfortable in my own place, you know, I don't want them there, even if I'm wrong and they're right. It's like, you know, but this is where I live, and you know, so. You know, don't be so hard. Don't be so hard on her. And if you do feel that way, you should call her and have coffee with her and try.
Oh, I've tried, Noam. I've sent emails. I've messaged. She still has me blocked on like numerous social media. I've really tried. Like I've really tried extending the olive branch. Sent a long, nice email like right after it happened. Yeah. What?
Did you invite her to this?
No. I mean, like, you know, there's only so many Zoom squares, you know. But no, really didn't do it to hurt her. Had no idea till I was already seeing this guy, and so it was a shitty situation. You know, definitely was not did it on purpose to make her feel bad.
Well, I'm gonna poke the bear a little bit. No, just based off of that argument, can't you use that same argument with the Louis situation?
What do you mean?
The idea that somebody makes you uncomfortable, and so therefore that you don't want to see that person, and that you would ban them. I mean, I'm just.
I would if somebody did something to me personally. Now, you know, the truth is, I'm not normal this way. I am really, and have many times in my life been able to say whatever, just go to work. And I'm not getting involved in that. So, but having said that, if for some reason let's say somebody did something horrible to one of my kids, you know, and I just couldn't get over it. I wouldn't want, every time I saw them, I just felt horrible. I would ban them. It wouldn't nothing to do with comedy. I'd ban them from going to eat in the place too. I'm just this is my home, that my business is my home, and I come to work to enjoy my life. And if it gets to that point, just don't come here, you know. And I haven't actually done that, but I respect that in somebody else, as opposed to a reprimand for a misbehavior at work, which I don't, where it's kind of like it's a professional, and I think those should not go on indefinitely. I do cut out an exception for an owner. I know your left-wing people won't agree with this either, but I do think that an owner has it is his domain, and he has every right to go to work and feel totally happy and comfortable and in the zone, and not have to surround himself with anybody that makes him upset and angry, unless the law protects those people.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I really tried apologizing, so I don't, and then I, you know, kind of let it go.
So if Louis had done one of those things to my wife, let's say, well, then I'd be deciding that issue from a different chair. And all of a sudden, I'm involved in the story. You know, I'm like right. Rebecca is involved in the horrible Chrissy Mayer story. She's part of that circle. So I'm not. So you understand the difference. The Louis story is something that happened 20 years ago. You know, nowhere near the cellar. It didn't happen in my place. I wasn't responsible. It's nothing to do with me. It's just a story that I've heard about him. You know. But if it actually was somebody close to me, I might have said, you know, no. But what I wouldn't have done is expected you guys not to use him. I would have known that was personal to me. I wouldn't have thought he ought to be banned from comedy clubs. I would have understood that's just my personal interaction with him. Yeah. And I reserve the right to rethink that, because I'm thinking out loud. But I think I'm being consistent. I think I am.
I mean, Rebecca's been doing some great stuff in the parking lot of the Labs thing. I mean, I guess kind of kicked off by Mike J, put it all together. And yeah, they've been doing it on Mondays over there, which is pretty cool.
Don't plug her shit. No. Oh, yes. I too am doing great things in parking lots, but they have nothing to do with comedy.
Don't listen, Manny.
Guys, all right. Well, this was a great conversation.
My son is playing with this. You know what this is?
Oh, is that Hillary?
It's a Hillary Clinton nutcracker.
Oh my God, that's great. Oh my God, that's so funny. Well, usually I end each podcast with where can everyone follow you on Twitter, but Noam, you're not tweeting, and
we have a podcast at the Comedy Cellar, live from the table.
Yes, and you guys are still doing that pretty regularly.
Yeah, more regularly than I'd like to. I'll tell you that.
Good. Where can people listen to that?
I guess everywhere good podcasts are sold, iTunes and all that. Just Google Comedy Cellar podcast.
Wonderful. And John, do you want to plug any?
I mean, listen. I mean, if you're in the New York City area, please come join us for a show in the park. We'd love to have you, Noam. If you want to come by, please. We'd love to see you there. But yeah, we're doing shows 6 nights a week currently right now. We're up to about, my peak was about 10 shows. Hope to start doing 15. We're going to move into.
Do you charge admission?
We don't. We do have on our website a place that you can donate. All donations go directly to the comics as well as the staff and the club. So we do appreciate it. But if you just want to show up and, put a blanket down and, eat some chirping chicken and Coke and smile.
So to be clear, I can come see that show and I don't have to pay any money, correct?
Right.
I'm kidding.
Ooh.
I was kidding. No,
Yeah.
I was curious.
No.
I'm happy to donate. I was curious about it from a business point of view, how you guys are making, because you referred to a revenue stream. I was wondering how you're making a revenue stream.
First, this is a pretty cool story. We did the first show. Some dude dropped $1,500 in our Venmo.
What?
Just was like in the
Was
park.
he single? Do you remember if he was single or not?
Rebecca's already dating him.
I have to go back. But yeah, just like that's really been helping us a lot. There's been some great donations. I don't think we're in the black yet. I don't plan that we will probably be in the black. But again, we've grown our followers so great. Follow us at Stand Up NY on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter at Stand Up NY. We're able to. We passed 10,000, which is something that we weren't able to do. We were stagnant in social media. And that was literally we grew to 3,000 followers within 3 weeks, which was
That's great.
Good for you.
Honestly, with people on their phones right now and having nothing to do, it's really been awesome. And please, if you have a chance, come see one of our shows. And when we're open again, go see us. Go see the Comedy Cellar. But the wings are fantastic. Now I'm going to be there in a little bit to go try to get some.
You own the Comedy Cellar?
Yes, we
Aww. It's tuck-in time. All right. Thank you so much, Noam and John. This was really a great, wonderful discussion. And yeah. Good night.
Oh, good night. His pants came down.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, time to go.
They didn't see it.
You have the privacy to see yourself. All right. This is great, guys. Hope to see you soon. Keep your pants up.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.